No, we're
have
not.
some fun?
No, if the Knicks are losing, I'm gonna be miserable.
Be fine.
I'm gonna be miserable. Really? You know what? I'm saying Knicks are winning tomorrow.
Oh.
Fuck it. Here we go. Knicks are winning tomorrow. See that guy? No, that's the wrong guy. See that guy? See him? He's over his assist prop. Jalen Brunson. He's going over his assist prop.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Heard yesterday that he's got no shot to win the Cy Young because it's going to Skubal again. Skubal's winning the Cy Young, no shot for free.
They're both terrific. They both have incredible numbers and credentials and stats and strikeouts and ERA and everything, like every single category. Fried is right there with him.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Face. It's the new face. New face of what? The hell are you talking about? Like seriously. Oh, the new face of the NBA, Anthony. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, really? Guy's got 2 shots. You're the face of the NBA. Slow down. He's a good player. I've always thought the whole face of the NBA thing was comical. You want him to be the face of the NBA because you don't like it that all the other faces in the NBA aren't American.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
No, we're
have
not.
some fun?
No, if the
What do
Knicks
you
are
mean?
losing, I'm gonna be miserable.
Be fine.
I'm gonna be miserable. Really? You know what? I'm saying Knicks are winning tomorrow.
Oh.
Fuck it. Here we go. Knicks are winning tomorrow. See that guy? No, that's the wrong guy. See that guy? See him? He's over his assist prop. Jalen Brunson. He's going over his assist prop.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Heard yesterday that he's got no shot to win the Cy Young because it's going to Skubal again. Skubal's winning the Cy Young, no shot for free.
They're both terrific. They both have incredible numbers and credentials and stats and strikeouts and ERA and everything, like every single category. Fried is right there with him.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Face. It's the new face. New face of what? The hell are you talking about? Like seriously. Oh, the new face of the NBA, Anthony. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, really? Guy's got 2 shots. You're the face of the NBA. Slow down. He's a good player. I've always thought the whole face of the NBA thing was comical. You want him to be the face of the NBA because you don't like it that all the other faces in the NBA aren't American.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
No, we're
have
not.
some fun?
No, if the
What do
Knicks
you
are
mean?
losing, I'm gonna be miserable.
Be fine.
I'm gonna be miserable. Really? You know what? I'm saying Knicks are winning tomorrow.
Oh.
Fuck it. Here we go. Knicks are winning tomorrow. See that guy? No, that's the wrong guy. See that guy? See him? He's over his assist prop. Jalen Brunson. He's going over his assist prop.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Everybody heard yesterday that he's got no shot to win the Cy Young because it's going to Skubal again. Skubal's winning the Cy Young, no shot for Fried.
They're both terrific. They both have incredible numbers and credentials and stats and strikeouts and ERA and everything. Like every single category, Fried is right there with him.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Face. He's the new face. New face of what? The hell are you talking about? Like seriously. Oh, the new face of the NBA, Anthony. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, really? Guy's got 2 shots. You're face of the NBA. Slow down. He's a good player. I've always thought the whole face of the NBA thing was comical. You want him to be the face of the NBA because you don't like it that all the other faces of the NBA aren't American.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Plenty to get to on today's show, including some sensational play in the National Basketball Association. Also, the latest in the National Hockey League. Our buddy Sam McQuillan joins us from Legal Sports Report. We dive in to the very latest in Major League Baseball as well. Without further ado, let's get right to it and get to the basketball game last night that simply could determine the series. The Indiana Pacers beat the New York Knicks by a final of 130-121. Going up 3-1 in the series. The Pacers took care of business last night with the game of his life. Yes, for Tyrese Halliburton, 32 points, 15 assists, and 12 rebounds, becoming the first player in playoff history to put up at least 30, 15, and 10 without a turnover since they started tracking this stuff 40 years ago. Here's Rick Carlisle after the game on the performance of Halliburton and his team with the win.
Very, very tough game, very competitive game. I mean, some of the shot making in this series has been really beyond belief. Both teams, I mean, some of the shots Anunoby's hit, one of the setback on the left wing tonight was just unbelievable shot, you know. And so at these high levels, these guys do amazing things. And so when you can get a stop and a rebound, it almost feels like an anomaly sometimes. But proud of Ben Mathurin. The guy has stayed ready. Came in yesterday, worked, got shooting in, got some simulated game shots. I've just been encouraging him to stay ready.
Yeah, I felt like in the fourth quarter last game we were a little bit more reactive than proactive. You know, they got some guys who can just make some hellacious shots, you know, and Cat and JB did that last game, and I felt like those were kind of like, you know, taking the air out of us. We were, you know, kind of sighing after everyone and walking the ball up. Today, you know, we were just trying to keep focused on who cares, you know, let's get it in and let's run, go right back at them. They're going to make shots. Let's just keep going. So I thought we did a great job of just playing our way, you know, the whole game, keeping pace in the game and just playing Pacer basketball. So I thought we responded really well, which we've proven that we do after tough losses really all year, and especially in these playoffs.
All right, so now the bottom line for the Knicks is they have to win their next game. Same could be said for the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference Finals of the Stanley Cup playoffs, as the Edmonton Oilers are one win away from advancing. They win 4-1 and go up 3-1 in the series. Leon Draisaitl and Corey Perry each had a power play goal and an assist. Oilers 9-0 in Game 4s over their past 3 playoff runs. They've been incredible. Here's Chris Knobloch on the victory and how close they are to getting to the final game.
Yeah, in the first period, we were the second best team. In the first period, we were a little bit slow. They had their chances. They had many chances. We were just hanging on, and the chances we gave up, Stu made many saves, and we could have been down several goals after the first period. And then after that, I thought we played a really good game, and I don't know how many chances we gave up in the second and the third, but I didn't feel like it was very much besides the penalty kill. They had a lot on the power play in the second period, but 5-on-5 in the second and third, I thought we checked, and that mostly is just because we were skating much better. So And we were playing shorthanded, so a lot of guys stepped up and elevated their game.
I think right now the Edmonton Oilers are probably going to end up being an underdog to the Florida Panthers in the finals, but the Panthers still have to win their next game. Meanwhile, a huge finish for the Milwaukee Brewers yesterday. Christian Yelich with a grand slam as they beat the Red Sox by a final of 5-1, a walk-off shot. Very impressive for the Brewers. The Red Sox certainly are struggling. Meanwhile, what will the Texas Rangers do without Nathan Eovaldi for a while? It's certainly possible that happens. He exited his start early with a triceps issue. Says he's optimistic moving forward. Pitched just 2 innings. His ERA 1.56 this season. Shohei Ohtani hit his major league leading 20th home run as the Dodgers beat the Guardians 9-4. He's now homered in 3 straight games. Ranger Suarez shuts out the Phillies. Spencer Strider finally loses to the Phillies 2-0 the final. Nolan Arenado, by the way, also hit a tie-breaking home run in the 8th inning. The Cardinals beat the Orioles. Final score there 7-4. In NFL action, not much, but a couple of pieces of news. Kirk Cousins not present for the start of Falcons OTAs. James Cook also not present in OTAs. And Demaryius Thomas, very nice gesture, who passed away on December 9th, 2021. They're going to put him into the Broncos Ring of Fame. Coming up next, Kyle Bonn joins us courtesy of Sporting News. We'll dive into the very latest in soccer, Champions League, and everything else. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll take a quick time out and be back right after these messages, so don't go away.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they won 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 18.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish, joined by Kyle Bonn of Sporting News to break down the latest in the world of soccer. Plenty to get to here, including the latest in the Champions League. And by the way, Saturday, I think, Kyle, is probably the biggest soccer week of the season. I mean, it's incredible to think that right now, in this basic, situation here, you have, arguably the biggest match of the year. Really, honestly, with PSG never having won a title, I think everything could change based on the outcome here. So what do you make of sort of this big week?
Yeah, it's going to be a really big lead up to the biggest game of the season. The Champions League final is the Super Bowl for soccer fans. It's the big game of every year. And there's a lot riding on this game. I mean, there's always a lot riding on this game, right? You've always got storylines in one direction or the other. But for these two clubs, it really is a huge deal, especially for PSG, like you mentioned. This is a club that, since being purchased by Qatari ownership a number of years ago, they have sold their souls, really, for a Champions League final, and it hasn't worked out yet. They went in big for Lionel Messi, for Neymar, for Kylian Mbappe. That trio never was able to win a Champions League title. They made a final, but lost a few years ago. And then the team, they dismantled it. They completely changed their approach. They said, all right, we're not going to go for superstars. We're going to go for players that actually fit together in a roster. And they've completely overhauled their roster. And here they are back in the final and now favorites to win this final against an Inter Milan team that was here 2 years ago, fell short as well. So both of these teams have lost Champions League finals in the not so distant past. And they're both looking for redemption in different ways. For Inter Milan, Simone Inzaghi has been one of the most underrated coaches in all of Europe for the last 5 years. And, you know, when he lost to Pep Guardiola, now he has a chance to turn that around. So there is really a ton riding on this game for both teams.
I agree. All right, so let's take a look at the odds here. By the way, this is Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern. PSG at home, plus 120. A tie also in play at plus 220 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. And Inter on the road, plus 240. So certainly it looks as though PSG is the favorite, but this could change extremely quickly based on how the match plays out in the first. So what do you think is the narrative here? How does PSG finally take home a title?
Yeah, so PSG come into this game as the second best attacking team in the world behind Barcelona, who lost to Inter Milan in the semifinals. Ousmane Dembele is a Ballon d'Or candidate. In my mind, it's a two-horse race between Dembele and Rafinha of Barcelona. To me, Dembele will win the Ballon d'Or if he scores or contributes to a goal or plays really well in this Champions League final. Otherwise, Rafinha should be the winner. But Inter Milan were the best defensive team in Europe this season. And then they went on to beat Barcelona at their own game, a 7-6 aggregate win in the semifinals. So they proved they can win with defense and with offense. I know PSG will be so hungry for a first European title, but I really like the value on Inter here. You can get them, as you mentioned, at plus 240, plus 140 to win the title outright. That plus 240 is the money line win on the 90 minutes. I think PSG are deserving of being favorites, but I would only say by a hair. The market is severely undervaluing Inter in this game. If they can beat Barcelona, who in a simplistic way are a slightly better version of PSG, then they can absolutely beat PSG. So I really like the value on Inter here.
All right, fair enough. Now, I know there's some other plays within the market that you like. Very specifically, I don't hear this one very often, Kyle, from you. The yellow card markets. Tell me more about this one.
Yeah, so in these big games, in these games with a ton riding on it, you think about a World Final, a Champions League final, even the domestic cup finals like an FA Cup final or a Copa del Rey final, things like that. With so much riding on 90 minutes, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of physicality and adrenaline, things like that. And so you get hard fouling, you get persistent fouling, things like that. And so, to me, the yellow card numbers here are really, really valuable. You can get Inter, who oftentimes the underdog, who will be defending a lot. PSG are expected to have a lot of the ball, will commit fouls, will pick up yellow cards, just trying to keep a lid on the game. You can get Inter over 2.5 yellow cards at plus 170. That's an incredible number for a final like this. I'm even going to push that further and go over 3.5 cards at plus 550. To me, that's insane value. They have the second most yellow cards of any team in the Champions League this season, and they had the fourth lowest yellow cards per foul, meaning they're committing card-worthy fouls at a higher rate compared to other teams. And then you can look at individual players to be booked, one on either side. I really like Denzel Dumfries, the wingback for Inter Milan. You can get him at plus 3 to pick up a yellow card. He has a tough matchup against Ficha Kvaratskhelia, who is a foul machine. And João Neves of PSG, a midfielder, you can get him at plus 600 to be booked. He only has 2 yellow cards in the Champions League this year, but he has the most fouls of any Champions League player. So I love that. And then you can look at saves for both teams. The Inter goalkeeper, Jan Sommer, was unbelievable. He made 19 saves in the 2 semifinal legs against Barcelona. And then Gianluigi Donnarumma, the PSG goalkeeper, held Arsenal to just 1 goal while saving 3.86 xGOT worth of shots. So he was amazing as well. You can get both of their overs at really good value.
Final thing, Kyle, before we go, your best bet in the final on Saturday.
I'm staying away from the money line. Too many things can happen. I'm even staying away from the total because finals have traditionally gone under. I do expect this to go under, but I don't love the value for 2 teams that can have chaos. I love the second half to have the most goals at about even money. When you go through the last 9 Champions League finals, of the 19 goals scored, 5 of them were in the first half. I love the second half to be the most goals. Teams keep a lid on it in the first half and then blow it out in the second half.
Kyle, enjoy the games, including, I know, a big game today, 3 o'clock Eastern. We're out of time, though. We'll check you out over at Sporting News for the latest on that. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, Craig.
Up next, we preview the Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes. Is this the night that the Panthers advance? Shukri Wrights will tell us next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
No, we're not.
Fun?
No, if the
What do
Knicks
you
are
mean?
losing, I'm gonna be miserable.
I'll be fine.
I'm gonna be miserable. Really? You know what? I'm saying Knicks are winning tomorrow.
Oh.
Fuck it. Here we go. Knicks are winning tomorrow. See that guy? No, that's the wrong guy. See that guy? See him? He's over his assist prop. Jalen Brunson. He's going over his assist prop.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. Big night in the National Hockey League. Is this the end in the Eastern Conference Finals? Will the Florida Panthers advance? Let's check in with Shukri Wrights, who joins us now. Before we do that, let's take a look here at how these series are going. Shukri, anything surprising to you thus far? I mean, I know that, Carolina was a little bit of a favorite. Initially there was some thought that Dallas would get it done, but it does seem like we're headed toward a rematch of the finals last year.
First and foremost, thank you for having me on, Craig. It's a privilege to be on with you this morning. And as far if there are any surprises for me here in the conference finals, I would say yes. There is one major surprise for me, and that is the fact that the Dallas Stars scoring problems have really become front and center for the Dallas Stars, where I knew that when Mikko Rantanen was red hot scoring earlier in the playoffs through the first two rounds, that their inability to generate scoring from their secondary, like scoring, whether it be the second line or the third line, was going to be problematic. And in the Eastern Conference Finals, it certainly has been a major problem and a big reason why they are currently down 3-1 to the Edmonton Oilers. And it does look like that we are looking towards potentially a rematch in the Stanley Cup Finals for the second straight year, something that hasn't happened since 2008, 2009, when the Detroit Red Wings and Pittsburgh Penguins met in back-to-back years in the Stanley Cup Finals.
So do you think that Game 5 it ends, Shukri, before we get to tonight's game? Do you think that the Oilers take care of business and this moves on?
I think it does come back to Edmonton for game number 6, and the reason is because there was major news that broke by Elliot Friedman of Hockey Night in Canada and NHL and Sportsnet moments before we hopped on that Zach Hyman is likely to be done for the season due to a hit that he took in last night's game, which that he did not return after playing only a grand total of 3 minutes and 11 seconds of on-ice time. So I do think that the loss of Hyman cannot be overstated for the Edmonton Oilers, who had 5 goals and 11 points through these playoffs. And last year he had 16 goals as the Oilers made it all the way to Game 7. So I think the Oilers will feel the loss of Zach Hyman for sure. So I do think Dallas does, find its game back on home ice in the series shifts back to Edmonton, where I think they will win Game 6.
All right. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers live to fight another day, and they fight tonight against the Florida Panthers. Panthers are favorites on the road, 8 o'clock Eastern game. Shukri, this is where the Panthers have been at their best, it seems like. Just when you think that they're not going to play great, they come through. What do you think about the East Finals tonight? Minus 132 on the FanDuel Sportsbook, total 5.5 in the game.
I'm going to go over on the 5.5 because Florida, for some reason, especially in elimination or closeout games, they seem to really raise up the ante in terms of offensively, where I do see a scenario where they score 4 or more goals tonight, especially considering that game number 4, I thought it was by far the worst game they played in the last couple of rounds. But I will go as far as to say that in terms of the favorites, I think Florida, you got to grab the minus on 132 for tonight's game number 5. And as far as in terms of for tonight's game, I do think that that Sergei Bobrovsky will have a huge bounce back game, and along with as well as a huge game potentially from Nico Mikkola, who has been a stallion for the Panthers, and as well as Matthew Tkachuk as well.
And to win the cup, Shukri, do you think it's still the Panthers? They and Edmonton are basically neck and neck.
I still think that it is plus 105 on Florida Panthers. They absolutely should still be the favorites, and there's no question as to why the Panthers should not win the cup. I think they still should, in fact, win the cup based on how the roster constructed and ultimately how they will get past the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals.
All right, Shukri, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Craig.
We'll have Sam McQuillan up next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too short of a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 18.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Sam McQuillan is with us from Legal Sports Report. He joins us now to discuss the very latest going on in Maryland, a tax hike getting set to go in place there. Also, BetMGM, the latest on them as well as Penn. And Sam, welcome to the show. Honestly, I think that this is a very big year for Penn in general. ESPN Bet part of this mix as well to see how, sort of they make any progress before the end of the year. And I feel like football season will probably determine that. But shareholders, of course, are involved in these conversations. And, there's no stranger to, sort of seeing how this is going to play out. In your mind, is this something that could come to a head at the end of the year because they just simply put are not making enough progress to be in the same category as FanDuel, as DraftKings, and maybe some of the others?
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. You have sort of what most sports bettors see is the sheer amount of money and investment and time, quite frankly, put into Penn's online sports betting strategy, which, of course, first started with Barstool and then famously went over to ESPN about a year and a half ago. But behind the scenes, the investors at Penn are getting fed up, quite frankly, at the lack of progress Penn has made, ESPN Bet has made, and you have this investor, HG Vora, which is now suing the company amid a proxy battle where they're trying to take over seats and then remove CEO Jay Snowden as the leader. The latest that just happened this week is HG Vora filed a long report criticizing ESPN Bet's failures. They have only about 3% of market share in the entire country, which compared to FanDuel and DraftKings is really just, very small numbers we're talking about here. They've accused Jay Snowden of excessive pay, of selling stock options at a bad time for the company, and of misuse of the company's private jet. So then, of course, Penn felt the need to respond, saying that those stock sales were actually mostly to cover company expenses, taxes, options, and fees, and he really hasn't sold much stock in the company. And then they responded to the claim that he's been using the private jet mostly just to go back to his home in Boston and New Jersey, where another executive lives. They said those reports are actually third-party leases out to people who don't even work at the company. So they're saying HG Vora is trying to sort of mislead people in this lawsuit, mislead regulators. And then HG Vora came back and said that Penn essentially has asked state regulators to not allow them to settle the lawsuit by allowing them to get rid of ESPN Bet. They said that they're using state regulators to prevent that from happening. And Penn comes back and says that actually we can't do that. State regulators would never allow us to do that. So it's a lot of he said, she said in this fight right now. But you're very right, Craig, that sort of while this background stuff is going on, you have the very real here and now of football seasons coming up. How do we expand? They're certainly trying to do a lot with the ESPN activations, with fantasy football, with becoming more part of the broadcast this season. We've yet to really see those numbers amount to anything, some adoption to increase and help their sports betting outcomes there. So it's going to be a make or break football season, of course, for Penn as all this kind of comes to a head.
Now, the other company that I think definitely is looking to make a big move this year, Sam, is BetMGM, although the big move could come in December when Missouri goes online. Are they hoping for big success there?
Yeah, BetMGM has been about third in sports betting market share for the last couple of years, and they had some good news this week when it was announced that they will be in Missouri in December. They'll be one of up to, could be 30 sports books at a time that launch in December. When Missouri turned sports betting online, BetMGM partnered this week with a company called Century Casinos. That's one of the 13 riverboat casinos that exist in the state that have an option to partner with a sports book. And we've only heard about two brands so far make these partnerships. You had Bet365 have a partnership earlier this year with the St. Louis Cardinals. A bunch of the sports teams also get to have a partner with a sports book. So there'll be plenty of sports book options, very likely, in December in Missouri. BetMGM will be one of them, and it'll be a very open market. You know, you have almost 30 sports books. Even the Royals and the Blues will be able to have an option. There'll be in-person betting as well. And BetMGM will certainly try to expand their presence in the Midwest. You know, you already have them live in Illinois, have them live in Kansas and Kentucky, and Missouri has been wanting sports betting for a long time. So they'll be hoping to make some big progress in the winter, kind of halfway through football season when Missouri goes online.
And then finally, let's get to Maryland, who's going to be a trendsetter in this industry the rest of the year, looking for a tax hike in sports betting. I know that a lot of states are looking to do this. Maybe the idea, Sam, isn't going for what New York has at 50%. Maybe it's going for smaller increments, because if it worked for Maryland, maybe it'll work for another state too.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Craig. We've heard a lot of talk so far this year about sports betting taxes, and Maryland's one of the first to actually get it done with a tax hike increase. They went from 15% to now 20%, which will take effect just before the football season. And that's a pretty big bump when you historically you've thought about most states only tax about 5 to 10%. You mentioned New York, which is an outlier at 50%. But now we've seen more states kind of adopt the small incremental bumps, which to your point, Craig, are a lot easier to get adopted than just double the rate. We saw Ohio already doubled its tax rate once from 10% to 20%. Now it wants to do 40% as well. So Ohio has been one of the more aggressive states there. New Jersey actually just introduced a bill from the governor that would raise their rate to 25%. You have Louisiana also considering this. But what seems to be easier to get done is when you have states like Maryland, where they were facing a $2.7 billion budget deficit. They look to a business like sports betting, which, quite frankly, when you have a recession or times when the economy is tough, it's been pretty resilient and has actually done a lot better. It certainly was the case during COVID, when a lot of states faced budget shortfalls. So no surprise to see other states considering the idea once you have a state like Maryland having success actually going through with it. Then you have to think about how the industry itself is going to respond. Last year, DraftKings famously announced that they were going to have this fee that was placed on bettors in high tax states like New York, high tax states like Vermont and Illinois, which would essentially just make the payout worse for people in those states. They walked that back before ever implementing it, kind of as they got a lot of backlash. And we've heard other companies as well talk about, quote unquote, other levers they can pull to make up these differences in the states. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see. We kind of are at the point where we already know more states are going to adopt this, but how do sportsbooks themselves actually respond when, the cat is kind of out of the bag, and it doesn't seem like this is going to go away anytime soon. I don't think anyone's really considering lowering taxes on sports books. It might be a long time before that happens. So we'll have to see how they deal with this. We'll have to see if, a proposal comes out to, make the outcomes worse for bettors in these states. We'll have to see. The industry certainly has a lot of other things legislatively that it's on its plate. You have prediction markets, you have fantasy sports, you have legalizing sports betting and iGaming in other states. We'll have to see where this goes on the priority list in terms of combating tax rates, especially if it's only incremental. So Maryland, we'll see if they, if their move here is something that a lot of other states actually are successfully adopting, but they're definitely thinking about it for now.
Well, Sam, great stuff as always. We'll check out all of the things that we just discussed and a whole lot more over at LegalSportsReport.com. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire this morning. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right, coming up next, Adam Kaufman will join us. We'll go over the latest in the National Basketball Association and also get to a little last licks. But before we do that, folks, I got a great idea for you if you're out there. Just go to your app store, Google Play, iOS, Android, however you have your apps these days, okay? And download the SportsGrid app, because I'm telling you, this thing is lightning fast. If you're streaming our shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, make sure you download it. You'll get it all set and you'll be good to go. By the way, we have the latest odds on all the games, video clips from our shows, and also tells you a little bit more about our network. I know most of you are either watching on a tablet or a phone, or better yet, you may be watching on free TV through your web provider on a Samsung or a new TV Vizio, something like that. Welcome aboard. Certainly want to make sure that you're checking us out. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. All right, coming up next, time to talk some NBA with Adam Kaufman. Is it over in the East? Is it over in the West? We may, in 48 hours, know exactly who's playing in the NBA Finals, so make sure you stay with us here on SportsGrid as we have a whole lot more after this.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 18.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Adam Kaufman's with us, getting ready to break down the National Basketball Association. And here we are in the East Finals, maybe with one game to play. That's the question that we're going to try and answer. But let's first go back here, Adam. This was an all-time performance from a player in the league with no turnovers, 32 points, 15 assists, 12 rebounds for Tyrese Halliburton. And Adam, as we've been talking about since last week, I mean, look, it's very apparent that the Pacers are the better team in this series, and I do think they're going to win. But can the Knicks make it interesting? Can they win their next game, get back into this thing, throw caution to the wind in Game 6, and then you look, Game 7, anything can happen. It's at Madison Square Garden. I personally don't feel it can. Do you think so?
So, yes, to a point. I mean, you say, like, can they make the series interesting? I guess the question is, how do we define that, right? Is interesting only if somehow the Knicks win the next two and force a Game 7? Is it still interesting if it goes 6, meaning the Knicks go home, hold serve at home, but then the Pacers come home, close it out, and then it was just sort of, the inevitable coming to fruition? I think the only way it gets interesting is a winner-take-all Game 7 like you're talking about. But to me, no, I don't think we're going to get there. I was on the Pacers pre-series, as you know. I was on here with you talking about it. We were both saying the plus money, especially to the degree that it was going into the series, didn't feel like it made a whole hell of a lot of sense. And now Indiana goes out, plays the way that it has through 4 games of the series. And I do feel like this is inevitable. The Pacers are going to win. That being said, I do like the Knicks at MSG in this next game before Indiana takes care of business at home. I just believe that between Jalen Brunson, who had a very underwhelming fourth quarter, obviously was positioned to go off, right? I mean, I think 29 at the end of 3, people would have expected a 40-plus point game out of Brunson with his team's season effectively on the line, and it didn't happen. It was, the secondary parts, the role players that were contributors. That being said, this Knicks team, we've seen them compete. It's not like they've had their doors blown off in every single game of this series. Far from it. So I think that there's enough pride there. There's enough talent there. There's enough depth there to go back home to MSG, take care of business, probably in a close game, and then the Pacers come home and just finish the job.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable, but you can get pretty good odds if it goes 7 and Indiana wins. I mean, this is pretty good. Plus 7 here, and that's not unreasonable. I guess the odds makers are saying if the Knicks, get to Game 7 at the Garden, they got a better chance to win. I don't like that one. I actually like the one right above that with Pacers winning in Game 7 at plus 760. But listen, we could play this all day long.
Real quick, but like, why do we believe, this? I get what Vegas is telling us and what the odds that you just showed are saying, but why should we believe that? I'm with you. Like Pacers in 7 over Knicks in 7. Simply, I mean, keep in mind. And it was a different situation, I realize. It's not apples to apples. But the Knicks lost a Game 7 on their home floor to the Pacers only a year ago in the postseason. Now, the Knicks were decimated by injuries. Pacers weren't fully healthy either, but they won that Game 7 at MSG. They took the first 2 games of this series on the road. It's not like they were afraid to play in that environment. I'm with you. Again, another situation where the odds just don't really make sense.
Fair enough. Okay, so the Timberwolves are getting 8.5 points tonight. Minnesota all season long has played this game of when you think they got no shot, they surprise you. Do they have one more in them tonight? The total is 220.5. I mean, in the end, Adam, I feel Oklahoma City wins. Is this it feels like a very big number in a, clinching situation here. Does the Thunder come through here?
So I don't really want to mess around with a side here in this one when it comes to full game anyway, because I'm with you. The number feels a little bit it feels a little large for the Thunder. It doesn't feel quite big enough for the Timberwolves, if that makes sense. We've seen the Timberwolves in games 1 and 2 fail to cover the number. OKC won both games at home by margin. Obviously this last time out they did not. It was a 3-point spread. They end up winning by 2, and the anomaly that was Game 3, that was a total blowout that we can't really take anything from. I'm with you. I think the Thunder win this game and end this series. I'd probably just take the money line, pair it with something else, Cubs on the money line tonight or something like that. Get yourself put them with the Panthers. Get yourself a much more reasonable number, something in the vicinity of even money anyway, and do it that way versus worrying about covering the 9. I don't think the Timberwolves no-show in this situation, but, I'll give the coaching staff there and the players for OKC a lot of credit in, people want to come down on Anthony Edwards saying he was invisible, he was terrible in Game 4, and statistically that would be true, but if you watch the game, I mean, the Thunder just took him out of it. There was never a time that he wasn't double, maybe even triple teamed. He couldn't do anything. He had to be a facilitator as best he could. Now, that being said, it's not like he had 10 assists or something like that.
Right.
So it was just a challenging game for him, and he has to be better with his team season on the line. Quite clearly, literally, backs against the wall, a must win. But I don't feel like we've seen enough from the Timberwolves, even off of that game 4, to say, yeah, back in OKC with an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals, sure, I think it'll be a single-digit loss. I just don't like it. If nothing else, I would consider versus the full game, first quarter or even first half, Minnesota with the points, saying they hang around for a little while, much as we saw, quite frankly, in the first 2 games of the series in OKC, and then maybe the Thunder pull away and win it by 10 plus.
I think that's fair. I want to take a look real quick at the props on some of the players tonight for Minnesota. Adam, you tell me if you like any of them before we let you go. Edwards at 26.5. Randall's numbers are shooting down here, as you see, at 16.5. McDaniels 12.5. Alexander Walker 9.5. Reed and DiVincenzo will close it out there. Anybody in particular?
I think Randall would be the one that I would start with. You said it, the numbers dropped. We've seen him have a couple of really good games in this series. We've also seen a couple of clunkers as well. But I think, I'm buying in on the discount, because if OKC is able to neutralize Anthony Edwards in any sort of a similar way to what we saw in this last game, the scoring has to come from somewhere. And I just don't think enough of role players on the road to say dependably, yeah, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, yeah, Dante DiVincenzo, maybe Naz Reid, but he's let me down more than once in this series already when it comes to points. So I think Julius Randle, he's been able to exploit some things on the other side. I would look back at him.
Enjoy the East tonight, Adam. We'll check in again soon. Thanks again. We'll wrap it up.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division, to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. One quick note here from Major League Baseball. It's being reported this morning that Astros pitcher and pretty good starter Ronel Blanco going to have surgery and miss the remainder of the season. Some of these announcements coming today. Lots of afternoon baseball. Scott Farrell has it covered on Coast to Coast. We'll also hit on some baseball and a very big milestone for a WNBA player and the latest on the PGA Tour. Time now for some last licks. All right, let's get started with a game last night that you may have missed. It happened late in San Diego for those of you who were watching on the East Coast. A very bizarre scene in San Diego was a player on the Miami Marlins, Ronnie Simon, second baseman, ended up making 3 errors in the first 4 innings of the game and, honestly could have been given a 4th. But what was very unusual about this was 2 things. Number one, that's a lot of errors. And the second part is that Simon was seen sobbing on the field after he committed the 3rd error. To which, when the inning ended, Simon ran off the field, ran into the clubhouse, and did not appear in the game again. Now, after the game, the manager of the Marlins, Clayton McCullough, said, we just thought it was time, essentially, to take him out of the game. But I got to tell you, I've been watching baseball a long time. This is not something that you see very often. And for a player who basically is playing for his only shot to make it in Major League Baseball, he's a rookie, only played 18 games at 25 years old. It tells you all you need to know. Simon probably going through it in one of the worst days he's ever had on a baseball field. So, hopefully things get right for him. Needless to say, I can tell you when the Marlins play the Padres today, my understanding is he's not going to be playing. So hopefully when Miami goes back to South Florida to play their next game, he gets an opportunity to make good on what was just a really, really tough game for an individual player. All right, on a positive note, Angel Reese in the WNBA ended up having 500 points and 500 rebounds, passing Tina Charles. She is the fastest player in WNBA history to do it. She did it in 38 games, and Tina Charles did it in 44 games. But I don't know if those of you who have been following the WNBA have noticed there's this little battle going on, it seems like, between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, who's better. Some fouling issues too as well. And the other part of this too, which is, a little bit of a thing here, is that Angel Reese, a lot of the highlights are seemingly lowlights. In fact, Reese seems to at least miss a lot of shots and then get her own rebound. And people are saying that this is basically why she has so many rebounds, is because she can't make a shot. Now, obviously, that's not true. Okay? Angel Reese makes a lot of shots. But this discourse going back and forth from Clark to Reese does seem like it's caused a lot of people to not like Reese for whatever reason. So you be the judge. Go back and take a look at the stats. Is she missing shots more than usual? Yes. Is that causing her to get more offensive rebounds off missed shots? Yes. Still doesn't change the fact that 500 is incredible. So congratulations to her. Congratulations to everyone playing on the PGA Tour. You now have an even playing field going into the Tour Championship. You know how in the NFL you get a bye for having a good regular season record, and in baseball, same thing, number 1 seed. Well, they tried to do this on the PGA Tour for the Tour Championship by basically having starting strokes for the players who finished ahead of the pack. This year, not going to be the case. Tour Championship will be played as a 72-hole stroke play event with all players starting in the tournament at even par. So any advantage that you thought you would have playing well in the regular season of the PGA Tour, the Tour Championship doesn't become the case. The best performer over the course of those 4 rounds will end up winning the FedEx Cup. So why is the PGA Tour going back on this? Not really sure, but seems to me they don't want to give anybody an advantage in golf, because I think when you do have a 3-stroke advantage over somebody to start with, it does give you too much of a significant advantage to win on any given day. That's just my opinion there. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Thanks again to all who watched. That's for sure. Also, we got to tell you, Swiley Kaufman's coming up at 12. That's followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast. He's on at 3. And Front Office Sports takes over at 6. 30-minute show exclusively here on SportsGrid, followed by Game Time Decisions from 6:30 to 8. We've got in-game live game day tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, and Gabe on Sports Rage tonight. Primary games tonight in the National Basketball Association. We've got what could be the final game in the Western Conference Finals, and we'll have it covered for you between the Minnesota Timberwolves and Oklahoma City Thunder. 8.5-point spread in that game. And then over in the Eastern Conference Finals in the National Hockey League, they head back to Carolina, where the Panthers are minus 130 on the money line. Those are the 2 big games in the NBA and the NHL tonight. And there's also a ton of afternoon baseball as well. So make sure you stay on the grid for that. Thanks to all of our guests, including Adam Kaufman, Shukri Wright, for coming on the show. Also Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. Also, thanks to our director, Luke, back in the house. I guess jury duty went as planned. And also thanks to our director, Frank. And also thanks to Greg Sussman, our Vice President of Programming, for jumping in and helping out today. All kinds of technical issues, which you don't even see, because that's how good he is. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.